There you have it. That's the situation of things in Oyo State. We're joined now by human rights activist Gbenga Sholoki. Joining us also from Abuja is the former General Secretary of Nigeria Labour Congress, John Oda. Gentlemen, you're welcome to TVC Breakfast.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Okay, but before we go into the discussion proper, let's give background to the story, because Oyo State is not the only state affected here. Now, Nigeria's economy is currently grappling with so many challenges at the moment, ranging from the drop in oil price to dwindling revenue. This has plunged some of the states into huge financial crisis, and it is in turn taking a toll on workers.
So despite the bailout given to 27 distressed states by the Central Bank of Nigeria last year, no fewer than 26 states still owe workers either salaries or other benefits. They're also hugely indebted to pensioners.
Some of the debtor states are Ekiti, Ondo, Kwara, Bayelsa, Abia, Adamawa, Benue, Imo, Kogi, Kwara, Osun, Oyo, Nasarawa and Taraba states.
States like Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Enugu, Delta, Ogun were owing either promotion arrears, pensions or gratuities. And this situation has forced many workers to down tools in the affected states. A look at some of the states, please.
Ekiti State owes her workers 5 months' salary. Oyo State, 6 months. Ondo State, 5 months. Nasarawa, 3 months. And slashed salaries. Taraba, about 5 months.
An investigation by Daily Trust shows that half of the federal and 36 state governments' budgets over 12.2 trillion naira for the year will be spent on salaries and overhead. Each of the two tiers has 6.1 trillion naira, but 5.33 trillion naira of the total, which is about 43.7%, will be expanded on salaries and overheads.
Governor Ayo Dele Fayose of Ekiti State put workers' monthly wage bill at over 2.6 billion naira, adding that federal allocation keeps reducing from almost 3 billion naira during the last administration to as low as 751 million naira in April. Governor Mimiko of Ondo State says state monthly wage bill, including pensions, is 3.9 billion naira, adding that the IGR, which is internally generated revenue, is about a third of the wage bill.
A federal allocation value added tax stands at 1.3 billion naira. Let's listen to what these governors have to say.
Like I said, I had wanted to please advise you to advise your aunties, your cousins, your moms, your dads who are on strike to please come back to work. For every day the strike goes on, we lose lives unnecessarily. The money is just not there. So it's not a question of strike action that will force the people to bring out the money. The money is just not there. And I have placed all the cards on the table face up. So please help appeal to them. Appeal to them. Right there, the Honorable Commissioner was telling me that he paid 150,000 naira yesterday.
People of Ekiti, for this special broadcast, I want you to please get your pen and paper and follow me. I therefore want to make it very clear that today, my government will pay pensioners because of their peculiarity as elder statesmen and women. It is my wish, it is my prayer that we all show understanding and know that this period is very tough for you and for government. But within ambits of availability, we will do our best to support you. Again, I want to say it expressly, it's with utmost regrets that I share your pains and regret the ongoing strike, but I am helpless. To my brothers and sister comrades of the NLC, I am one of you. In the meantime, I want to be in solidarity with you as I remain on strike as well. I hope we will both resume at the same time.
Wow.
Desperate times really
Call for desperate measures. It almost sounds like blackmail, to me, when you have a Mimiko, for example, begging the youth, to beg their parents to go back to work. And Fayose, well, he's now on the side of the workers. He's striking against who? Who is he demonstrating against? Well, these are not, it's not about opinions here, of course.
Really
it's about the workers. I mean,
and the workers in Ekiti State now, they've declared 3 days fast and prayer in Ekiti State, praying for divine intervention. Perhaps that would
yes, let's still bring you further perspectives to this. Organized labor has countless times expressed dissatisfaction over the inability of state governments to pay salaries. President of the Trade Union Congress, the TUC, Comrade Boboyama, says any governor who cannot pay worker salaries should resign from office, as the Congress was prepared to make their states ungovernable for, well, over the issue.
So we ask, how can states survive the financial debt burden in the face of current economic challenges? And for how long will workers have to wait, as it appears that they bear the brunt of it after all?
Indeed. Okay, we have our guest here in the studio, Gbenga Sholoki, rights activist. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast again.
Good morning.
Of course, we have John Oda,
in Abuja.
Yes, of the NLC in Abuja. Good morning to you. Maybe we should begin with the,
good morning.
Yes, good morning. Mimiko has told, the youth to go beg their parents. And Fayose, on the other hand, has joined workers in solidarity. What do you make of this?
Well, I think it's just making mockery of the entire situation. It's really unfortunate that Nigerian workers will find themselves in such a precarious situation. And we have people who are conscienceless in the race of governance today. Because when you listen to what the two governors have just espoused, it amounts to irresponsibility. Because why begging a child to go and beg his parents to resume from strike? Because the children or the students will also partake whatever the father takes home. Because the child or the children don't work, but the father work. But let us look at it. Let us even leave those ones. But are these governors even ready to cut down on their OSSs? What are they giving back to the society? They still go with their retinue of aids, security details, long convoys. They go about with that. Definitely, they are not even feeling the impact of the economic crunch. Yes, there is economic crunch in the country owing to the drop in oil price all over the world, and also the issue of militancy in the South. But at least our governors should also be sympathetic to the cause of the common man in Nigeria, especially the workers, whose even the minimum wage cannot even take home. Because if you look at the price of goods and services in Nigeria has gone up, and it's taking so many things away from an average Nigerian. So I think it behoves on our governor to move up from that pedestal level when they make mockery of the situation at hand. The situation at hand calls for serious brainstorming. It calls for serious attention from our governors.
Okay, Mr. Oda, do you also believe that the governors are making mockery of this, the pains of the Nigerian workers?
Yeah, I can't agree more with what my colleague there have said. We have a situation where for several months people are not paid. And those who put themselves up for election have, instead of finding solutions to this, gone out to do babasala over these issues. Let's take the governor of Ekiti State. He does not have to pay to be fed. He doesn't have to pay from his salary to be taken care of, he and every member of his family. He doesn't have to pay for transportation. He doesn't have to pay for accommodation. So even if Governor Fayose were to forfeit 100% of his salary, this will have absolutely no impact on him. But take the case of the worker in Ekiti State who for a number of months have not been paid. It means life has completely come to a standstill. And were this worker to become sick, he will, or his dependent become sick, he will have to take care of this because sickness does not wait for when the Faucis of this world will be ready to pay for the worker's salary. So rather than trivialize a very fundamental and critical situation, these people who told us that they have ideas to take their respective states forward need to come up with concrete ways in which the lives of the workers in the state that are now in jeopardy for the refusal of the respective states to pay their wages to be made meaningful. I think these are the fundamental issues. And as my colleague said, while it is true that we have economic downturn, this has not been reflected in the lifestyle of our governing elite. And so they are showing that, yeah, the economy may be bad, but life has to go on at the highest optimum level for them. And this completely is not acceptable. They are forcing the people of this country
Mr.
to
John
take
Oda,
desperate situations.
Indeed, Mr. John Oda, let's come to the studio.
Yes.
This is to you, Benga Sholoki.
Yeah.
I read an article recently where the writer actually just, concluded that there is a culture of not wanting to pay salaries in Nigeria, whether at the public sector or the private sector. Is that what the case really is? Beyond the issue of, the prevailing economic circumstances and all of that.
Well,
Is that what is at play here?
No, I don't think I will agree with that. Except that when you look at it critically, you also want to align with it a bit, because when you have about 36 states, we have about 27 still owing salary. But that is not the case at the private sector. I want to believe that. Except some few bad eggs in the private sector. At least banking, you cannot owe. In some corporate world, in some corporate companies, definitely you cannot owe the workers. I expect them to resume for duty. But unfortunately, it is more pronounced at the public sector because of the fact that our governing elites are as insensitive to the plight of the common man. Because why? Look, there are certain things that ought to have been done. I mean, today, there was a presidential committee that did an analysis of our public sector. And they came out with the fact that about 70% of our earnings, or 60%, goes to overhead. Does that not tell our governing elites that something is wrong? What is the way out? Instead of this mockery. You understand? I mean, a responsible and responsive government will sit down and look at, okay, we have this problem. But the current is a continuous thing. And if you continue to service it, if you continue to use virtually 75% or 70% of your earnings to service that monthly, what is left for developmental projects? So I think our government, our governors need to sit down, really look at the books, check where it is necessary, try to address the situation properly. They need to be proactive in all these things. It is not just making mockery of what is happening to the workers, because most of our workers, even like I said the other time, they are take home, cannot even take them home.
All right. John Oda, the take home of the workers can't even take them home. But the federal government has given another lease of life to the states as we speak, even though they have to pay back in some kind of bonds. Do you think that will help this situation on ground?
Yeah, clearly in the short run, I think that it is the most responsible thing that the federal government is doing. But in the process of doing this, we have to guide against the situation where during the first round of the bailout, the very first bailout that President Buhari announced, some of the states went on to use it for very frivolous expenditure. And this again has been the problem of this country, where we say that we spend X amount of money on so-called salaries. But if you are to disaggregate the salaries that are paid, you discover that the bulk of it goes to political office holders, to people who are just parasites on the system. And those who are involved in reproduction, in the productive sector of the state services, are not the ones who are involved when you then do a breakdown of this. So, yeah, in the first instance, the second wave of bailout which is coming, which is going to, in the end, be some form of loan, need to be used to pay the backlog of the salaries of the workers. And then the various state governments need to sit down and have honest discussion with the state workforce. A number of the appointments that are being done at the level of the states are completely unnecessary. Let them reinvent the civil service in such a way that the work that they are giving away at 10, 15 times the prices that they are truly worth, let them be given at their true value, or let the civil service be empowered to do the job, so that we can ultimately allow the system to work and let it produce results.
Okay, let's come to the studio. Okay, just hold on, Mr. Oda. To you, Mr. Sholoki. Now, a situation where workers are not paid upwards of 10 months and all of that, and this government is bent on fighting corruption, you know, to the hilt. And we've heard, you know, voices saying, look, something has to be done about the civil service, the workforce is overbloated, and all of that and all of that. Don't you think this, you know, insecurity when it comes to, or lack of security when it comes to knowing that, look, at the end of the month, you will get your salary? Is this not adding to the whole ghost worker syndrome, number one, and corruption that seems to have become, you know, a permanent feature, whether at the public, you know, level or private sector?
I want to say that first and foremost, any responsible government should first and foremost tackle corruption. But you see, like my colleague said.
But if people don't have,
I'm coming there.
Yes.
Like my colleague said now. Look, the government must sit down honestly with the workforce to say, okay, if we are here today, because like I mentioned the other time, if we continuously use 70% of our earnings to pay salaries, definitely we will not move.
To call that 70% earnings is an error in itself, because I mean, it's not like you've produced anything and you've earned money for it. You're getting money from federation accounts.
I'm coming there. That's one of the problems that I'm coming to analyze. You see, when we have a skilled federal structure that we're running, we can't run at this pace and expect to grow. And I think that's what the present government is trying to do. But with the set of governors we have in the saddle today,
how is the president trying to do that?
You see, when you fight corruption, first and foremost, so many things will be put in their right perspective. That's number one. Two, like we'll be advocating that let us call a genuine national conference where we sit down, talk to ourselves and say, well, we want a federal structure that is truly federal in structure, not in lip service. You understand? In the lips. Because today,
not on paper. You
see, Lagos State can afford to pay 100,000 minimum wage with what it generates, contrary to what it earns from the federal government. And Lagos State can still do that. But I know that a state like Ekiti or Oyo cannot pay the minimum wage with the number of workers in their saddle. You understand? But if you honestly sit down, if they honestly sit down with their workers, they can iron things out. It is not necessarily to lay off workers, but also say, okay, if you do this, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this and that? But in a situation whereby you look at workers with contempt and you don't want to sit down with them and discuss.
What in specific terms? I mean, we have to be very clear. Do what and do, in the case of Ajimobi of your state, for example, he has said, no work, no pay.
Yeah.
If you don't come to work, you will not be paid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in practical terms, what are those things that these governors should be doing?
The governors should ensure that they also go, like we mentioned, they must sit down with the workers, one, trash things out, then two, the bailout fund that they are going to get now, they must make sure that it is used for the purpose that it was meant for, not when it is about to building roads or constructing roads or building bridges. That's number one. Two, they must also be, they must also look at, they must also be creative so that they can also earn more money. It is not just cap in hand thing, go to Abuja, collect monthly stipends, come and expend it. But they must also look inward. They can also diversify. Most of them have relied so much on the federal allocation to run their states, which is not supposed to be. That's supposed to be an additional thing. But today, that's the major money they rely on to run government. But we say that they should diversify. Look at agriculture, for instance, tourism, and some other areas. You can also develop that to also earn more resources for you to be able to move your state forward.